Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, and Patreon, and contact Dayspring Discussions on the Facebook group, Twitter account, and dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Well, happy Friday, everyone. That's right, it's Friday morning here in Austin, Texas, and I know I usually like to do shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but of course, got a little busy yesterday, got called into work early, couldn't do a show, and honestly, there's so much to talk about. I just had to do a show. So instead of exercising before work like I usually do, I decided to do as quick of a podcast as I could in order to talk about all the things I want to talk about. So, guys, if you're listening to this, it's at least Friday evening. I have just enough time to record a show. I got to go to work. I'll come back, edit, and post it. And then I'm going to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I'm looking forward to seeing that. Actually, I had two people. I was driving for Lyft last night, and I picked up two people that had just seen that movie. They said they enjoyed it, but like a lot of Tarantino films, they said maybe it was a little too long. I got to agree, Tarantino seems to be a little bit long-winded when he comes with his films, but I do enjoy him as a filmmaker. I love the cast. DiCaprio, my boy, he's my favorite actor, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. So like I said, if you're listening to this, it's Friday nights. Hopefully you are doing some good stuff. Maybe go and see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Maybe watching The Boys on Amazon Prime. I'll get to that in just a sec. But either way, hope you guys have a great weekend. Of course, if there's anything you want to talk about, hit me up on the Facebook group, Twitter account, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com, and let's talk about all the goodness. Alright, so starting off, I'm going to cover a couple things from Comic-Con that I haven't talked about yet, mainly the DC stuff. So I'm going to talk Arrowverse and animated stuff and DC Universe, so I'll get to that. But first, I want to talk about some things that I am planning on checking out this weekend. So first off, I want to talk about Thrawn, Treason. Okay, so this is the newest Star Wars book that came out, was it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. And it's the third book in the Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn. Now, Zahn, kind of a legend when it comes to Star Wars books. He wrote the original Thrawn trilogy way back in the 90s, actually, starting with Heir to the Empire. And it was the first book that was post Return of the Jedi, after Return of the Jedi came out in 1983. The book took place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. And we see this General Thrawn, a new character created, come in and cause problems for our heroes. Of course, canon in Star Wars has been reset ever since Disney bought out Lucasfilm, and Thrawn has since then been brought back in a little different way. He's not in that post-Return of the Jedi era. He was brought back for Star Wars Rebels, which takes place before Rogue One and A New Hope by Dave Filoni, and these books kind of center around that. The first Thrawn book was about how he joined the Empire. The second one, Thrawn Allegiance, was about how he interacted with both Anakin Skywalker back in the Clone Wars, and then also Darth Vader during the events of Rebels. I think it's set between seasons 3 and 4 of Rebels. This one, I wasn't quite sure when it was going to be set, but I'm only a couple chapters in. But it turns out this one is set in between the end of Rebels, from those last couple episodes, from basically when Hera is captured by the Empire and then is saved by Kanan, and we know what happens after that. But anyway, I like it because it is set in the Rebels era. It has that connection to Star Wars Rebels, and as a Star Wars Rebels fan, I like expanding the storyline. The other Thrawn books have been okay, in my opinion. I'm not thrilled with them, but they're okay enough to where I want to check them out. The last Star Wars book, Alphabet Squadron, I really had no interest in listening to. My wife, however, Lisa, she listens to all the Star Wars books. I listen to most of them, but she listens to all of them. So she listened to Alphabet Squadron. And when I say listen, we do audiobooks, guys. We don't actually read the books. We do the audiobooks. Mark Thompson reads Thrawn, Treason. He's kind of the main Star Wars guy. He does a good job of course. The one thing I like about this one so far is that there's a character in here that is under Tarkin. I think his name is Savine. I thought it was Savine, but I think it's Savit is his name. It's audiobook. I haven't looked it up yet, so I might be wrong. But is an older general, and the way Mark Thompson reads it, he sounds like Sean Connery. So I'm picturing Sean Connery as the character in my mind when I read it. But anyway, guys, that's the new Star Wars book that's out. I'm only a couple of chapters in. So far, it's pretty good. It's interesting because the way I think it's going to go is we're still in setup mode in the storyline. Is you have a meeting between Grand Admiral Thrawn, Director Krennic, who was in Rogue One, and then Grand Moff Tarkin, who we all know. And these kind of three big power players in the Empire, and then you have the Emperor kind of in the middle. I think something's going to happen where Tarkin and Krennic are going to try to take down Thrawn, or try to play Thrawn against each other, and it's not going to go good for Thrawn either way. But I'm interested to see the rest of the book, so you guys can check that, of course, and let me know what you think. I am probably going to finish it. It probably usually takes about a week to go through an audiobook, so if you want to check it out and share your thoughts, of course, please do so. The other thing I'm planning on checking out this weekend, The Boys on Amazon. Now, this is based off the comic book series by Garth Ennis in a world where superheroes are pretty much assholes. And this group comes together to try to take them down, or basically keep them in line, I guess you would say. But the main star is Carl Urban, written by Garth Ennis, like I said, and the show is produced by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. Everyone knows Seth Rogen, of course, but the two duo also did another Garth Ennis comic book, Preacher, which you can find on AMC. I've been looking forward to this for a while. They just put out a final trailer a couple days ago, and then several friends of mine have actually been messaging me about this, asking if I've seen the trailer, am I planning on checking it out, and yes, I am going to check it out. It's on my agenda for this weekend, so next week, hopefully probably on my Tuesday show, I will be talking about The Boys. You guys, of course, watch it this weekend, fire back if you have any thoughts about it, and hopefully we can discuss it next week. Okay, so before I get into Comic-Con, or basically I'll probably have time to talk about the DC Comics portion of Comic-Con. Before I get to that, several people the last couple of days, of course, have been asking me about House of M, so I do want to talk about that. Mainly because, as I mentioned, this podcast is an X-Men reference, the title of it. So I'm a big X-Men fan, have been for 2 decades now at least. So, I wanted to at least talk about this because people have asked me about it, because I am a big X-Men fan. So I just wanted to get into it just a little bit. Jonathan Hickman has taken over writing duties for the X-Men books. And for months now, Marvel has been teasing that this is a pivotal moment, or seminal moment, I guess, in X-Men history, where everything will change and nothing will be the same. And they've, used reference points like Age of Apocalypse or Grant Morrison's X-Men run, new X-Men run, to signify what it's going to be like and how the paradigm is going to shift as far as the X-Men when it comes to this book. So, it's been a build-up for a while. I still read my X-Men comics. I remember just last week, I finished off reading the new X-Force run with Young Cable, as he does not like to be called, and then Matthew Rosenberg's X-Men as well, which I've been really enjoying. Basically, in that book, you brought back original Cyclops, you brought back Wolverine, and they're kind of leading this small band of team who thinks the rest of the X-Men are dead. You got Havoc in there and other mutants, and it's been an enjoyable book. Sad to see that go because I enjoyed it, but very interested to see what's going on now with House of X, and then Powers of X are set to follow too. So this came out on Wednesday, and I read the director's cut, and to be honest, it was okay. It got me very more interested in what's to come than, really the book itself and what it's setting up. So basically what we learned from this book is that Charles Xavier is basically, trying to establish what he always does, a safe haven for mutants. And he's set up kind of an island almost using the mutant Kuroka. I always say that name wrong. I know I always say it wrong. But anyway, and in doing so, he's found a way to use Kuroka and establish something that humans will want, which is going to be pharmaceutical uses for what it produces. Now, Professor Xavier, we know, died back in Avengers vs. X-Men. Cyclops, who was possessed by the Phoenix Force, killed him. But since then, he's been brought back several times. I was a little surprised to see him at the beginning of this book. Really weird what happened at the beginning of this book. There was something where, like, X-Men were hatching from eggs, and he's like, "To me, my X-Men," and it's really weird in my opinion. So basically what happened to bring Charles Xavier back is going back to an astonishing X-Men storyline that happened a while ago, actually, was Xavier's conscience was transferred to the mutant Phantom X, and in doing so, from there was able to create a new, younger body for himself. It's kind of, honestly, it's a weird storyline that I really didn't enjoy. But we haven't heard anything from the Charles Xavier character since then. So, jumping from there to this was quite a leap, actually. I'm hoping we get more history in that. But again, this first page where these X-Men are hatching seems a little odd. And of course, the fact that he's wearing that helmet the entire time makes me think there's something ominous underneath that helmet that we are going to find out about later on. So there's that. Another thing, of course, moving on, you have Jean Grey bringing mutants in, and another thing is the fact that there are mutants in this that are presumed dead, one of them being Gabriel Summers, otherwise known as Vulcan. Sean Cassidy is back, who's kind of like a zombie banshee last we saw him. But Jean Grey, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be the actual Jean Grey that, was recently brought back. She's in her Marvel Girl outfit again. Again, it's just from this first issue. It is a first issue. We spend a lot of time with Magneto and the Cuckoos and this group of humans that are kind of sent there to explore what the X-Men are up to where we don't get a lot of backstory on some of the other characters and where they're at this point. So hopefully that will get explained later on. We do get a little thing here where the humans have their own little space station, and we see a giant sentinel head. And we come to find out that this little group, I forget the name of it, but they're made up of various world organizations like SHIELD, SWORD, AIM, and groups that are very weary of mutants, and especially what's happening in the mutant community right now. And I'm sure that's all going to come to head later on in issues to come. And then, of course, the scene, my boy Cyclops comes into the mix, and what it is Mystique and Sabretooth got caught by the Fantastic Four. Cyclops comes to collect them, and the Fantastic Four says no, and Cyclops is like, "All right, fine, you do what you do, I'm gonna go do me." Well, not in those certain terms, but in that way, he says, "That's fine, take them, whatever." And they're very surprised about that because as of recent years, of course, that hasn't been Cyclops' mentality. He's, started fights with Captain America and other organizations. So, taking that more passive-aggressive mentality is a little odd for Reed Richards and his family. But in any event, it was a very interesting moment. Again, Cyclops is my favorite X-Men, which is why I enjoyed the Rosenberg previous run so much, because it was heavily centered on Cyclops and his return and him kind of leading his team when they were in dire straits. So, I like that kind of stuff. But anyway, and then continuing on with it, you do have in the director's cut, there's a little bit of a list here of Omega level mutants, like the most powerful mutants in the Marvel Universe, what their powers are, why they're so powerful, stuff like that. That was a little interesting to read through too, so you can check that out and see just who might be the biggest threats to the humans going forward in X-Men books. But either way, this one, it's a totally different direction. It's like I said, a big leap going from Rosenberg's X-Men to Hickman's House of X. It's very different. My brother commented on it, saying, the way that the X-Men are acting, it seems more like kind of the Brotherhood of Mutants rather than the X-Men. But, for me, it's nothing too bad because the X-Men, as Cyclops pointed out in this book too, they've been beaten on quite a bit, throughout their lives. And every time they try to stand up, the human race or even other superheroes feel threatened by them. And really all they want is their own little piece of, safe haven. You had it with the Xavier School. You had it with their island off of San Francisco. You had it, going back to the Jean Grey Institute that Wolverine set up. They just want to feel safe. They want to, live their lives, so to speak. And I think, what's going on is Xavier found a way to, have something that the humans want to where they'll play nice. Having Kuroka produce all these things that could help these humans and corporations and organizations means they got to play nice with the X-Men if they want what they got. So there's that. But House of X, I'm more curious to see where it goes than anything. I'm not, willing to say it's great right now, but you know what? It's very interesting to say the least. So there you go, guys. Of course, fire back on the social media groups and Gmail account. Let me know what you think about House of X if you've read it. And if you haven't, of course, go check it out. I think it's at least worth a read. And let me know what you think afterwards. Alright guys, so let's jump over to some more Comic-Con news. Of course, Comic-Con was last weekend. Got a lot of good stuff from a lot of good things. I talked about the Marvel panel on Tuesday's show. And that's really all I had time to talk about. So now I want to jump over to the other big boys on the block, DC. Now, we didn't get anything as far as DC live action films. No mention of Wonder Woman 84, I think it was, 84 or 86. What's the year the Wonder Woman sequel is? I totally forget. But nothing Birds of Prey, which I'm surprised about that. I thought we'd get some Birds of Prey, given that I think that one comes out in February. Joker, we didn't get much about that. Not a surprise there. Nothing about Aquaman 2 or anything else they might be planning. So, I think Marvel knew that Warner Brothers wasn't going to have a big presence as far as their theatrical films. So they used that as, a way to, play up their own presentation with their Phase 4 stuff and make the biggest splash at Comic-Con, so to speak. So, and that's fine. That's totally cool. But DC, in my eyes, did make a couple of little droplets or little minor splashes, in my opinion, in other ways. So starting off, the Arrowverse. The CW, of course, they brought their stuff there. You got trailers for the final season of Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and also Black Lightning. You even got a little trailer for Batwoman, which is the newest show that's going to be part of the CW, and it's all leading towards Crisis on Infinite Earths that comes out this fall. Now, still, I know during the Black Lightning panel, the star of that talked about how, technically he's still not in the Arrowverse, even though he's on the CW. He's a superhero show. I know they mentioned Supergirl and Vixen in a certain episode, but they've never actually tied them together yet. So Black Lightning's still not in there. So Crisis on Infinite Earths, you said you got Supergirl, Arrow, Flash, and Batwoman are going to be a part of it. Legends of Tomorrow, to my knowledge, doesn't come back for a while. Hold on, let me sit here and take a look at this. Let me see. Yeah, Legends of Tomorrow isn't going to premiere till 2020, actually. So, yeah, they're not going to be part of Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I've mentioned seems a little crazy to me, considering that they're all about time traveling and alternate realities and stuff like that, which is really what Crisis on Infinite Earths is going to be centered around. Now, I'm hoping they take certain characters, like maybe say a Sarah Lance or the Atom, and bring them in. It's just not going to be a Legends Tomorrow episode, especially since we just learned that Brandon Routh, who plays Ray Palmer the Atom is going to don the Superman ensemble once again. He's going to be playing some version of a Superman Kingdom Come. At Comic-Con, he unbuttoned his shirt to reveal the Kingdom Come Superman logo, which I think is great. Brandon Roth, of course, played Superman in Superman Returns, directed by Bryan Singer, a film that I find is a little underrated. A lot of people not big fan of, but as far as a Superman storyline, as a personal story, I enjoy it. I enjoy it more than I enjoy Man of Steel. Debate me on it. I bet you I can win. But in either way, that was probably the biggest thing to come out of the Arrowverse panel, I guess you would say. But that was super cool to learn that. And we know that Tyler Hoechlin is coming back as Superman. The woman who also played Lois Lane in the previous crossover, that's going to be there as Elseworlds. Yeah, play Lois. She's going to come back as well. And I'm very interested to see what else they're going to do, what alternate versions. And like I said, we're dealing with alternate realities and stuff like that. Now, of course, there is the foreshadowing that both Oliver Queen and Flash, Barry Allen, are going to die/disappear in the Crisis, okay? Arrow, it's on its last season. It's got 10 episodes, which basically means it's going to lead us right up to Crisis on Infinite Earths, where, Oliver's supposed to die. I can see it happening, of course, given the fact that it is the last season of Arrow. Oliver's the one who started all of this and expanded from there, so him giving his life to save the multiverse, I can see that happening. As for Barry Allen, yes, I think he's going to disappear, but of course the Flash, one of being probably the strongest show or most popular show in the Arrowverse, I don't see him going very long. But one thing I've said too about this is, like with Arrow and Flash, okay, there have been multiple Green Arrows in the comic books. There have been multiple people who have been the Flash. So you can call the show The Flash and it not be Barry Allen. I mean, you do have Wally West in there, who has donned the Flash costume for quite a long time. So even if Barry disappears, we got Wally still. So I think that would be something that would kind of freak regular viewers out if you switched up Flashes on them. Bring Barry back later on, but if you centered more around Wally, I think it'd be very interesting to do something like that. Whether the execs over at Warner Brothers and CW have the stones to do it, I actually don't believe they do, but in either event, that's kind of what's going on in the Arrowverse. And like I said, Batwoman's going to be in there as well too. Still not sold on the show. I'm going to watch it, of course. I'm going to check it out and see, but I'm still not sold on that show. But, maybe if I check it out, my mind will be changed. But let me know what you guys think about the Arrowverse, what you're excited about. How do you rank the shows? What's your favorite to least favorite show in the Arrowverse? And, of course, are you excited for Crisis on Infinite Earths? Fire back. Let me know. All right, guys. Last thing I am talking about, still sticking with DC properties. Now, you do have DC Universe, which I'm going to talk about just for a sec here. They did announce Titans Season 2 is coming beginning of September. That's probably my favorite of the original shows that DC Universe has produced. So I'm excited to see that, especially the fact that, we're going to get Aqualad in there. We're getting Deathstroke. Should be pretty interesting to see how that goes. You have Doom Patrol renewed for Season 2. Not a huge fan of it, but that's fine. And then, of course, you have Young Justice, which got renewed for Season 4. Super excited about. I'm loving Young Justice Outsiders right now. It's great. And then they give us a little preview of Harley Quinn, which sounds like it's going to be a very crazy animated show. My daughter, who kind of is interested in Harley Quinn, I let her watch the DC animated movies, which, has animated violence and a couple of swear words. I think this might be a little over that line, but I'll think about it. Maybe I'll watch it and see if it's appropriate for her, or if she's, okay. I'm not one of those type of parents that try to shield her from all bad words and all violence and stuff like that, but I know she does, enjoy the character, so I'll check it out and see if maybe it's something we can watch together. But anyway, so that's DC Universe. Jumping over to the DC animated movies, which I enjoyed. Now, I just watched the other day Batman Hush. It's out digitally. It comes out on Blu-ray, I think, in another week or two. And it's based off the comic book by Jeff Loeb, drawn by Jim Lee. Kind of an iconic Batman book because Jim Lee's an awesome artist. Jeff Loeb is a great storyteller. And with the movie, not to spoil anything, but they did the ending differently than what the book does, which I'm not too thrilled about. I kept on waiting for it to go the way the book does, even to the very end, and it didn't. So for that, yeah. And it's mainly a story about Batman and Catwoman. I mean, it mainly focuses on their relationship and the problems with them being together, given the way they like to do things, I guess you would say. But out of the Batman movies, it's probably my least favorite one. I'm a little disappointed that Damian wasn't featured more heavily. Of course, Batwoman and Batwing were introduced in the previous Batman film, Batman Bad Blood. They're nowhere to be seen. Batgirl, we didn't get really anything about her. Maybe they'll do it later down the line, but she was in like a scene, and that was it. So I think there could have been more to it. So probably my least favorite of the 4 Batman animated movies that we produced in this animated cinematic universe. But I am excited about what's to come because during Comic-Con, they announced first off, we're getting Superman Red Sun. Those of you who don't know, this is a storyline written by Mark Millar years ago. Mark Millar, the guy who wrote Kick-Ass and also Kingsman. So this is one he did where Superman, or Kal-El, his rocket ship did not land in Kansas during the 1930s. It landed in the Soviet Union. And basically him raised as the Soviet super weapon and, dominating, and him dealing with American heroes such as Batman and Flash and Green Lantern during those time frames. Very interesting Elseworld storyline, which, is something interesting to play with on that. Now, in the regular continuity, as far as the Justice League animated movies, you have Justice League Apocalypse War, which is based off the book The Dark Side arc by Jeff Johns, which honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of Jeff Johns' run on Justice League. I love Jeff Johns. He's one of my favorite writers of all time, but I wasn't a fan of what, his Justice League storylines, but I did enjoy the Dark Side War, and it does seem to be the next step in what they were setting up. Luthor is, an honorary member of the Justice League, and the League is talking about how they're tired of Darkseid attacking them, so they're going to go after him. So Dark Side War would fit into that. So I'm interested to see, how that's going to go. I would definitely suggest checking out the Dark Side War. It's an interesting and very big storyline, in my opinion. And then another one they talked about that's coming is Superman, Man of Tomorrow. Now, according to the panel, it is not based on any original comic book. Sounds interesting. I mean, there have been several comics, I think, that have been called Superman, Man of Tomorrow, but this one is going to be a completely original idea. We don't know much about it at this point, but it's another Superman animated movie that hopefully is set in that DC animated movie continuity, so I'm all for it. Hands down, that's great. I know they talked about a Wonder Woman one that was coming soon. I don't think they talked any bit about that, at least not in my notes. They didn't talk about it. And then I would like to see another Teen Titans one. I enjoyed the Teen Titans ones too. I think they talked about a Justice League Dark 2 as well. Could be interesting, but I'm really enjoying this DC animated shared universe that they're doing with the movies, and I enjoy it better actually than the live action stuff, and honestly more than what they do on the Arrowverse too. So I'm all for this. I love the animated stuff. Keep bringing me the animated stuff, and I'll keep watching it, so to speak. But let me know what you guys think about the DC animated movies. Have you seen them? Which ones are your favorites? Are you excited for what's to come? Fire back, of course. I want to know. I want to discuss this. Is why we're here, guys. Let's talk about it. And with that, I'm done. That's right. Okay, so like I said, if you're listening to this, it's at least Friday night because I am out of time. I got to get ready for work. So I'm going to go to work, come back, edit, post, and then Legacy, go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But fire back on any of the topics I have talked about, guys. Anything else you want to talk about Comic-Con? Because honestly, I think this will probably be my last show talking about Comic-Con. Another thing that, of course, I mentioned last week, I didn't get a chance to talk about, was the Picard trailer. Not a big Star Trek guy, but Star Trek Next Generation is probably my favorite of the Star Trek series. Love me some Jean-Luc Picard. Patrick Stewart's awesome. And I saw the Picard trailer, loved it. Very interested in something like that. If you want to talk more about that, of course, you can talk about it on the social media groups. And that's it. Like I said, guys, go out, enjoy your weekend. Plenty of good stuff to enjoy out there. So go up, gobble it up, and then, of course, let me know what you think. So you can find me personally, guys, Slim Dayspring 12 on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, of course, may the Force be with us all.